Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter from Berkshire Paint and Sip, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today we're going to be painting Haflinger Horse, and I'm going to be sipping on a little Pinot Grigio. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. Alright, so for the materials today I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 canvas. You could certainly switch up the size if you like, but that's what I'm going to be using. I will be using acrylic paint today. The colors are titanium white, purple violet, this is burnt umber, which I'll call brown. I have Mars black, I have burnt sienna, which I'll call rust, and I have raw sienna, which I'll call yellow. So I'm just going to make up my own names as I go through the process. And of course, you can switch up the colors if you'd like, but that's what I'm going to be using. I have 3 brushes that I'm going to be using today. I have a 1/2 inch wide bristle brush, I have a number 8 round brush, and I have a number 3 round brush, and I'll refer to these as small, medium, and large as we go through the painting process. Again, you could switch those up if you'd like. If you're painting along with me, you're also going to need a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, I've got a couple of additional resources for you to help you through your painting process. There is a link where you could purchase the same paint kit that I'm using. So it's the same large canvas, same paint colors, same brushes. So that's there for you. And there's also a link where you can download for free an image of the final painting. So you could print that and use it as a visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. All right, so what we're going to do for the first step is we are painting our entire canvas. We're going to be painting the background. I'm going to be using my big bristle brush, and the colors I'm using are black, brown, purple, and white. And I just want this to be like a dark, mysterious kind of background. You could make yours as light as you want, but I'm going to go for a nice dark background. I'm putting all 4 colors on my brush at the same time just to kind of get the party started. Now maybe I pick up just brown and purple, and then maybe the next time I just pick up black. I'm going to use quite a bit of paint so I can get this, a full, nice, smooth kind of look to it. But you could have it as light or as dark or as purple or as brown as you want. It's going to be a visual preference on your part. For me, I want my horse to really pop out of my composition, so I really want this to be nice and dark. But again, if you want yours to be a little bit lighter, feel free to do so, or a little bit more purple. That's cool too. And I'm just going to kind of keep going until I get this entire canvas covered. We are going to be painting our horse right on top of this background, and this way we won't have to worry about painting around anything. We're painting this background first, so that way we don't have to worry about it again. It's going to provide us with a nice base coat for the painting, and it's also going to provide us with an easy way to paint the horse without having to paint around, come back and paint around for the background. So I'm just giving you a little bit of a shortcut by doing it this way so we can worry more about our horse as opposed to the background. So this is just going to, again, give us a nice layer to work on and provide us with some good, a good solid foundation for the rest of the painting. So I'm just keep on painting until I get the whole thing done. And you can see I'm kind of switching colors as I go about it. Sometimes I'm picking up more purple. Sometimes I'm picking up more brown, sometimes I'm picking up more black, so you just get it to be as light or as dark or as purple or as, brown as you want it to be. And once you've got it all rendered here and you've got the whole thing painted in, I am going to kind of go back one final swoop to make sure that I have all of my areas painted, to make sure I've got a nice full coverage, and I'm going to go back and forth, left to right, just to work out any really thick spots, make sure everything is as blended as I want it to be. And then we are going to be switching brushes to our medium brush for the next step. So once you've got this step all nice and complete, you can put this large brush away, take out your medium brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we are painting an outline of our horse. So I'm gonna be using my medium brush, and the colors that I'm using are brown, rust, yellow, and white. And I'm gonna use them all at once on my brush because one, we're just doing an outline, but two, I wanna give it kind of a natural color. And by using all four colors on my brush at the same time, it's gonna help to provide different tones of this chestnut color. So these horses are known for their chestnut color and their really light blonde mane. So the chestnut shade can come in all different varying lightnesses and darknesses, so we can make it any shade of chestnut we want. So that's why I'm going to just kind of go with the four colors on my brush, let happen what's going to happen. If we have it light or dark, so be it. And I do want to caution you that before you start this step, you do want to make sure that your canvas is dry. So if you have to, you can just take a break and sip a little bit more, or you can blow on it, or you can just get out a blow dryer and just dry it a little bit more. But how I'm going to start this is I'm putting all of those four colors on my brush at the same time. So I have brown, rust, yellow, and white, and I don't need a lot, just enough so you can see it. For you too, you want to just be able to see it. So I'm going to have you make a couple of marks, and then we're going to connect the dots, really. So you're going to find yourself about in the center of your canvas. I want you to come down to about the halfway mark. So you're going to make yourself a mark around the center of your canvas, and then you're going to go straight above it, and you're going to make the same thing, maybe about 2 or 3, maybe about 2.5 inches below the top of your canvas. And then you're going to come from about the center of here, and you're going to come maybe about 4 inches in from the left, and maybe about 4 inches in from the right. Now you're going to make yourself a big circle. So one of the things I notice with people when they're making a circle from 4 dots like this is people have a tendency to make a straight line from one dot to the other. So just make sure when you're doing this that you're actually making a circle as opposed to like a diamond type shape. So I'm going to just concentrate on making myself a circle as opposed to just connecting those dots with straight lines. And I'm going to keep going until I have it all in my circle that I want. So if you have to keep adjusting it, so be it. And then once I've got my circle, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can see that mine is not perfect. We're going to be coloring over it anyways. So once you've got your circle, now what you're going to do is you're going to go straight from this center spot all the way over to the right hand side of your canvas. Make yourself a mark, and then you're going to connect your circle to that mark using an arcing motion. So I'm going to start right about here. I'm going to come down, and I'm going to make myself an arcing motion. That's going to be the back of the neck. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 2 more marks. One is going to be right here where we started here, and then I'm going to go straight down and make another one at the bottom of my canvas, and I'm going to connect these two. This is going to be the chest, so it's going to have a bump in it, but you want to be careful not to make a super big bump because it'll look out of proportion. So I'm going to go at a slight angle to me towards the left hand side, and then I'm going to make just a little bit of a bump coming out like this. So you can certainly make it larger if you want to once you see how the whole horse looks, but initially I wouldn't go too far big. You can always make it bigger, you can't make it smaller. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a circle for the muzzle part where the nose is going to be. So how I'm going to do this is I am going to come about from here, maybe a little bit lower. You're going to come about 2 inches down from here and over to maybe about halfway between here and the edge of your canvas, and make yourself a small mark. And you're going to come about from here over to the same spot. And now you're going to make yourself another circle. So something like this. This one's going to look pretty small. And now once you've got this one, now we've got to connect the head to this muzzle part. So again, I just keep reloading my brushes with those 4 colors. So think of this as the jawbone in through here, and this is going to be where your mouth is. So I'm going to do an arcing motion here, but I don't want it to be too dramatic. So this is my jawbone, and then I'm just going to kind of give it a slight arc like that. Now I'm going to do the top part of the head. So we're going to put a nostril on in a minute, so it's going to look kind of funky for a moment, but really all you need to do is kind of connect this to this. And of course it looks a little funky right now, but we're going to add a bump for the nostril. So I'm going to add this bump a little bit above this circle on the outside. And I want it to look natural, so you don't want to just add a jutting bump. I'm going to go like this, and I want it to be farther out than this part here. So I'm going to go like this and a little bit like that. And then I'm going to add almost like a flat spot for my mouth. So again, I'm just reloading my brush with those same 4 colors, and I can, if you want, you can bump out like the little front part of the top part of the mouth, and then you've got a little mouth that comes down in through here, and something like that. So you got almost 3 bumps: nostril, front part of the top lip, and then this is the under part of the mouth, because I totally know my horse anatomy, obviously. And then we're going to do a couple of ears. So again, I'm just reloading my brush with those 4 colors, and I'm going to go straight up from this mark right about to here, and that's going to be the left side of the right ear. So I'm going to maybe come right about up to here and go like this, and then like this. They're not super huge ears, so you don't need to make bat ears or anything really large. And then I'm just going to come over to the left maybe about another inch, and then do a similar type shape somewhere like this. And then, oops, I guess I'm painting in my ears. We're going to switch brushes to our large brush for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're painting in just the base coat of the whole horse. The only kind of color instruction that I guess I want to give you is underneath the jawbone. You want this to be darker than the jaw, so that way you can see the difference between the two. Other than that, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to have it darker down here, and then I'm just going to fade it into a lighter chestnutty kind of color as it goes towards the face. Even if as you're doing the face, you could have it a little bit more gray around the muzzle, but it does not have to be one solid color. So the colors I'm going to be using are black, brown, rust, yellow, and white. So I'm going to use 5 colors, and what I'm going to do is I'll be mostly probably doing like a circular motion. Maybe at times I'll be, using more of a long brush kind of stroke, but you'll notice that because you have this dark under color here, it's going to provide a really good base for the fur that you're going to be putting on. You do want to make sure that by the time this step is over, or by the time you're done painting it, you've hidden these obvious outlines that we created when we were doing the base out structure for the horse. And if you end up having a lighter or darker color than your outline, just make sure that you blend it in. So how I'm going to start is I'm going to start with black and brown on my brush at the same time, and I just want to get a couple of the darker areas in. So I'm going to kind of start under here just so I know you want it dark down here, and then I'm going to, once I've got that, you can kind of fade it into the horse, and then I'm going to start with that down here. That's probably the only time I'm going to pick up black. I might do a little bit if I'm going to go for like a gray muzzle, but next time I pick up paint, I'm going to pick up the rust and the brown, and this is going to start getting my horse lighter and lighter as I go up the horse. Again, I want to make sure that I hide this outline in through here, so even if you have to add extra paint or a second layer on any particular area, feel free to do so. But the goal here is to try and get that golden chestnutty kind of color to be represented. They do have a nickname too. I think they're called the golden horse with the golden heart. So they're chestnutty, but it translates as a golden color too. So feel free to make it as, you know, vibrant as you want, or as rusty chestnutty color as you'd like. It's going to be your horse. So if you wanna interpret it whatever way that you want, feel free to do so. So I just added more rust and brown to my brush. And they do have, you know, it's a horse, so their fur is not super long. So you do want it to kind of look on the smoother side, which sometimes that circular motion can give you more of a rough look to it. But I also know that we're gonna have this beautiful, long, flowing mane. So if we have some spots that look rougher than others, that's okay. We're gonna hide it all with our mane anyways. This is just providing us with a nice undercoat to that mane. And again, you wanna see the separation between the shadow underneath the head and the actual jawbone itself. So I'm just kind of getting this all painted out. And again, I know I'm gonna have this big mane over there. So I'm gonna start working on the face. I'm gonna get the face a little bit lighter than the body itself. And I already painted in my ears, but if you didn't, you could paint yours in now. And again, I've got this huge mane that's gonna be all over this. I am gonna make sure that I cover that outline though. So I am going to concentrate, maybe put a little bit more white on my brush as I go around those areas with the outline, just so I can make sure that I can fully cover those. And if you need to, sometimes you might need to do 2 coats over, depending on how strong that outline was. You might end up needing to do 2 coats, but that's fine. Whatever you got to do is totally fine. And I'm just going to kind of get 1 coat on here while I'm working on the rest to make sure if I do need a second coat, this will be dry for me. And when I'm doing this type of painting, if I do have a firm outline under there, to cover it fully, you can just do a thin coat of paint first, go work somewhere else, and then that thin coat will dry quickly, and then you can do a second coat over it in order to get it to blend in or to disguise it a little bit. And again, I'm going for more of like a nice light chestnutty kind of look to it. And these horses have lots of markings on them. Well, especially on their face. They can come with those white patches on the center of their face. So if you do want yours to be lighter or have like a light patch, they also have a lot of gray around that muzzly area. So you can certainly tweak these colors whatever way that you would like to. I'm putting a little bit of gray on this area just to give it a little bit more authenticity. And then I'm gonna probably put another coat on my ears while I'm waiting for this to dry a little bit, because I do want to cover this. So I'm gonna give that another minute while that's drying. I'm gonna go and put a little bit more on my ears. The ears can be a little bit lighter too if you want them to. Again, these horses, they're just so beautiful. They've got this delicate color to them all around. So you just make it as, you know, genteel as you would like. I'm going to add some more paint in this center area and maybe over here. Of course, I don't really care about this part over here because it's going to be covered with the mane, but I do care about this area in through here. So I'm going to add a little bit more white on my brush just to kind of make sure I get that covered. Maybe a little bit more in through here. White helps to make your paint less see-through. So if you do need any areas to be covered more, just add a touch of white onto your brush, and that's going to help you to cover up any of those lines. And then I'm just going to get this fully painted in the head, and then we are going to be using our small brush for the next step. So once you've got a beautiful coat all on your head and on your body, you can put this brush away in your water cup. I'm just sticking my head back here for a second, just making sure I've got everywhere colored in the way that I want to. Maybe a little bit more in through here. Sometimes it takes, you know, a minute or two to get the whole area painted the way that you want it, so take your time. There's no hurry, and you can press pause or rewind or whatever you need to do to take the time that you need to get your horse as beautiful as you want it to be. And then again, we're going to switch brushes to the medium brush. So once you've got this all, did I say medium? Yeah, medium brush. Couldn't remember what I told you we were going to use. So we'll use the medium brush for the next step. So you can get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're doing the first layer for the features on the face. So this will be first layer of the eye, the nostril, maybe the mouth, and maybe we'll put in, I don't know if ears are considered features, but yeah, they are. Features on a face, or feature, I don't know. We're gonna work on the ears too. So the colors I'm using are black, brown, and maybe a little bit of white too. So how I'm going to start this, I'm just putting black on my brush, and I'm going to start with my eye. So my eye is going to be positioned between my ears and a little, so if like this is halfway in your face, it's maybe just a little bit above that halfway point, and I'm going to turn it. It's going to be kind of like a diagonal shape of an almond, and it's pretty big. So I'm going to have the right side of it come almost to the edge of my ear, maybe like a little in from the ear, come on down, maybe make yourself a little bit of a dot there, and then the left side of it is going to go maybe about halfway in this ear and come on down, maybe at a diagonal, make yourself a little mark. And now I'm going to make myself like an almond type shape, but I don't want my edges to be really firm. So I'm going to almost do like a soft out of focus edge to it. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to kind of put my almond type shape into play. I'm going to color it in with my black paint. And then I don't have much paint on my brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just soften the edges. So I'm going to just almost like blend it into the body of the face. So it's almost like we're creating these little kind of shadows around the eyeball itself. I think I want to put a little bit more black on the inside because I really want the center to be black, but that exterior I'm just making softer. So at any time you can always wipe your brush off on your paper towel too, because you don't want to have much paint on your brush at all. And then what I can do is you can also bring down like little shadowy areas down into the face a little bit. And if you go too dark, don't worry, we're gonna have ample opportunity to lighten it up, but this is just giving us a nice soft shape to the eye. And we're going to do the same thing with the inside of the ears and the nostrils. So right now I'm just using black paint to find where my nostril is. I have a bump here on the outside edge, which indicates that's where the nostril is on the other side. So you should go directly to the right of that. And it's about almost halfway between like the full section of that, what would be that original circle maybe that we made. So about halfway. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing. I do a little curve line up at the top, and I'm going to bring it down almost in a diagonal kind of fashion down here, but I want the bottom edge of it to be really soft. So as I come down here, I'm going to just kind of blend the edges of that nostril area out into the rest of the face. And you could have this top edge could be a little bit softer. It doesn't have to be a firm edge, but the softer it is, the more out of focus it's gonna, not out of focus, but the more it's gonna look like it's blending into the fur itself. And then also in the muzzle type area, if you want there to look like there's a shadow between the two nostrils, you can just take that remnants of the black, maybe put a touch of brown on your brush, black and brown, and just put like a little shadowy area in through here. And again, if you go too dark, don't worry about it. We will lighten it up later. And this is where what I was referring to earlier, the gray area, which you could certainly use black and white or black, brown and white to get some sort of shade of gray, which is what happened earlier. I had white on my brush and I just picked up a little bit of black, and they have, a lot of these horses are kind of dark down in through here. So I'm just going to kind of almost add that little bit of darkness down in through here if I want a little bit more. And I need to give it a mouth, so I'm just going to pick up a tiny bit of black and brown, and I want this almost to be kind of flat in through here, maybe with a little bump up here, but if you immediately just start curving it up, it's going to look like a unnatural smiley face on a horse. So I want to give it part of that front muzzle. So what I'm going to do is, I've got this little dip in here, so I'm just going to kind of go up a little bit and then kind of back down, travel almost all the way over to here, and then kind of come up a little bit in through there. And that gives you the correct kind of look of the mouth. And then what I'm going to do is I still have a dirty brush. I'm just going to put a teeny tiny bit of white on my brush just to lighten up this little bottom lip a little bit. You could use brown, you could use the rust color, whatever color lip you want to give it is totally fine by me. You could even add a little bit in through here, but that's totally up to you if you want to go even further. Now I'm going to put some darkness in my ears, so a little bit of that black and brown, and I want messiness in through these ears. I don't want it to look like it's a really clean line, so I'm just wiggling my brush a little bit near that the lighter portions of it, so that's going to make it just look nice and natural. And I want it to naturally blend into the head, so make sure you don't I just wipe my brush off on my paper towel, and I'm just going to kind of fade it or blend it into the head area, something like that. And then I'll do the same thing for the other ear. And again, if it doesn't go right on you, don't worry. You can hide it with strategically placed pieces of its mane. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this one. Just give it some really uneven little edges to it, like the outer hair is kind of just almost fluffing over the little darkness on the inside of the ears. I'm wiping my brush off on my paper towel so I can get this area just to kind of blend in with the head. And then let's see, what are we gonna do for the next step? We are going to be using, we're gonna use the same brush for the next step. So once you've got your facial features started, you can wash and dry this brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is our second step to the face of the horse. I'm gonna be using my medium brush, and the colors that I'm gonna be using are all the colors in my horse. So I'm using black, brown, rust, yellow, and white. So all my colors except for purple. So my strategy here is to one, make sure that I've got a nice smooth coat over the whole face, but to also, if I can, identify where there's muscles or shadowy areas or like an eyebrow bone. I don't think that's the correct name for it, but the bone where the eye socket bone, maybe, I don't know, the bone right here. So we're going to be using the colors to accentuate contours of the face, and also to add any additional markings or to finish up the color on the fur. So I do know, again, this whole forehead area is going to be covered by the mane. So I'm not going to focus my energy, a lot of my energy, on that area or on this whole area over here. Where I do want to focus my energy is around the eye, in through here, and on the nose. So as I'm doing this, I'm going to be using this medium brush, and I'm not going to be using much paint at all the whole time. I'm just going to be using a very little bit of paint. If I want there to look like a spot where it's protruding, I'm going to add a little bit of lighter paint than whatever is on here. So this is like a medium brown, so I could add maybe a little yellow, rust, and white, and add a little bit of a lighter area that's going to show that eye socket, eyebrow bone part. I do know that this type of horse has a really prominent jaw in through here, so you could add like a little shadowy area in through here. It's got a muscle right in through here, so that could have a little bit of a highlight. It's got another muscle on the nose here. So as I go through it, I'm going to kind of identify what I'm doing with my light spots and my dark spots, and you can kind of follow along. I am going to put a little bit of a lighter area around the edge of the nostril too, to make that look a little bit more three-dimensional. And I'll probably add maybe a little bit more lightness on the nose, and I might add a little bit more of that gray color around here. So again, as I approach this on each little piece, I'll kind of talk about it, and you can just follow along and do yours as you'd like. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of start from the top and work my way down. I do know that I want a little bit more fluff in those ears, so I'm putting a touch of white and just a little bit of the yellow on my brush, and I'm just going to kind of add a little bit more fluffiness to the fur of these ears. I know that when we go to add the mane on, that these ears are going to be sticking right out, so I want to make sure that they've got enough of their fluffiness and enough dimension to them. So just adding a little bit lighter of a color on top of what I already had on that exterior, which is going to help with that. And again, the bottoms are going to be covered by the mane, so I'm not really concerned about that. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work on my little eyebrow bone part. So if you're nervous about the color that you're going to be touching the canvas with, you can always kind of pre-mix yourself a little bit of a color, but by doing that, you might end up with a real solid color everywhere. So just be cautious when you do that, that you don't use that same color everywhere, because it won't look as natural. So I've got some paint on my brush and I don't want a lot, so I'm going to just wipe it off on my paper towel. I can always add more. It's really tough to take away once it's on there. So I want my eyebrow bone to be somewhere in through here. I'm going to add a little bit of brown, rust, and yellow now that I've got that light spot, and I'm just going to kind of blend it out into the rest of the area around it. So I want it to have some soft edges to it, and I am going to want to add a little bit more of the chestnutty color to it, but I've got it nice and light right now, so I'm adding a little bit more of the rust and the yellow just so I can have it read as that beautiful color that these horses are. And you can see I've got a nice light area. This socket comes down, straight down past the eye, and it's going to end up connecting over here, so I'm just bringing some of that color down. And the key is to have those soft edges. So even if you need to bring in some of a darker tone to, like I just put a little bit of the brown on my brush just to soften that edge, that's going to help to make it look more natural as opposed to just a real firm line. I'm going to make this lighter area come out past the eye, because I know that there's a whole socket that the eye sits into. So I'm going to make this a little bit lighter over in through here. And I can see that this area needs another coat of paint because it's kind of streaky. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of that rust and yellow. So my kind of rule of thumb when I'm doing this second kind of coat on this type of painting is I definitely want a second layer of paint wherever it's going to be visible outside of that main area where the where we're going to be putting that big mane. Anywhere else where you're going to see that face, I want a second coat of paint. So even if you think it's pretty good, I recommend adding a second coat of paint just to make sure that it's nice and soft and you've developed it enough. So I'm adding just a little bit more brown onto my brush to get this to be a little bit more shadowed on the outside of that eye socket area. And I'm just going to kind of work my way down here. I want this to be a little bit lighter over here. And again, I don't use a lot of paint, which is why it might take me a good few minutes to get this the way that I want it. But that's just the way that I do it, because I want to be able to control what I'm doing. If I came in here with a whole bunch of paint and wasn't able to control where I put it, then my brain would just tell me, keep blending, and then I would have a whole big solid color everywhere. So I don't want that to happen, so I'm using very little paint. I just added a little bit of brown to my brush because I want this area to dip in just a little bit more. So just a little bit, that's a little bit of black on my brush. And I'll just keep telling you what colors I'm putting on my brush, but I'm gonna just really kind of keep switching as I want light areas and dark areas. And then I've got some darkness on my brush, but I'm gonna bring it in some of this chestnutty color because I want this whole cheeky area to make sure that if it's poking through my mane, I really want you to be able to tell that it's a nice, beautiful chestnut color. So you can almost just do a light layer on top of it to make sure that it's nice and soft looking, and that you don't have those really prominent swirl marks from painting it earlier. So now I've still got some more of this chestnutty color here, making sure I've got that on there. And then I want to have a little bit more of the muscle area to show in through here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a tiny bit of white paint on my brush, and I'm going to, so I've got my eye socket area here, and it kind of, there's a bridge to the nose here that has a lighter area, and then it kind of travels down and you've got a muscle area in through here. So as long as I've got a lighter shade or a lighter color than whatever is on there, it's going to read as it's an area that's protruding off of the face. So I know that I've got something like that. I want to put a little bit of brown on my brush. And my key, again, is I'm not using a lot of paint. So when I want it to be lighter, I can just pick up a little bit of lightness, and because I don't have too much paint on my brush, that allows me to do that. I do want to make sure I have another coat of paint in through here so it doesn't look unfinished. So I've put the three, the rust, the brown, and the yellow on my brush just to make sure that I've got this beautiful chestnutty color. And you can see these two marks are making sense now. They're making it look like it's got a nice muscle in through there. Maybe I put a little bit of shadow right in through here to tell you that there's this cheekbone in through here, or jawbone, cheek jaw. I just used a little bit of black too, which I don't know if I really wanted to use all that much black, but that's okay. I can work it out. Put a little shadow underneath here. Yeah, that works. I'm gonna pick up some more of that rust and yellow. Make sure I've got this nice and fully painted in through here. And then as I get towards that nostril, I'm going to put a little bit of lightness above the nostril. And then again, oops, there was black on my paper towel. Hold on. Just wipe that off of there. There we go. And then I'm going to make this whole area a little bit lighter. And that, again, just adds to that three-dimensional kind of effect to it. So if I want that to bump out a little bit, I can also do that on the top of the nose. I can add a little bit of lightness in through here and just get this whole area to just almost protrude a little bit more and have it appear that there's more light on this particular area. So I'm just adding a little bit of lightness on there, which is going to give it that vibrancy. I think I want to kind of soften this a little bit in through here. So I just added a little bit of brown onto my brush, and then maybe I'll put it a little bit darker under here just so it looks like it's a little bit more shadowed under there. And you can see I'm just kind of cruising along here, making sure I've got all the areas as light or as dark as I want. Adding these dimensional elements makes it look a little bit more natural and more realistic. I think I want to add maybe a little bit of lightness on this side of the nostril, on the right side of the nostril. And again, the key is don't use a lot of paint on your brush. That's where you can very easily run into trouble. And if you have to, you can always put a touch of water on your brush, and that's going to help you to almost blend out these edges of it. And I'm thinking that's looking She's looking pretty good right now. Let me just kind of add a little bit more of this gray down here. I like that, what that's doing there. I can see the nostril going in. I've got this area nice down here. I'm digging this. She's looking like a pretty horse. I'm afraid that I might have some of this area exposed, so I want to put just a little bit more paint on here. Just so when I do have the mane on there, I'm not fearing, like I don't want to skip a spot because it's not fully painted. So I just added a little bit more of that beautiful color onto here. And then we are going to actually switch brushes to our small brush for the next step. So once you've got this beautiful coat on your Haflinger Horse, you can put this medium brush away in your water cup. You can take out your small brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we are finishing our eye. So I'm gonna be using my small brush, and the colors that I'm using are rust, yellow, black, and white. And how I'm going to do this is I'm going to put a little bit of rust and yellow on my brush first. This is going to provide me with a little bit of color in the eye, but I don't need much because when you're looking at horses, unless you're standing really up close, it's very hard to detect the color of their eyes because it's very shadowed. And it's, you know, it's beautiful when you're up close. I used to own a couple horses when I was a kid, and I loved getting up close to them because they just stare you right at the eye. But when it's from a distance, it's so hard to see their beautiful color in their eyes, except for those unusual horses who have blue eyes, but we'll talk about them some other time. So again, I have rust and yellow on my brush, and what I'm going to do is I'm just adding a little bit of a subtle color. It's almost in like an arcing fashion. I'm not going all the way to the edges, and I'm kind of in the middle and doing it on the left bottom of what I would consider to be the eye itself. This is all like shadowy area in through there. And then once I've got that on there, I'm going to wash and dry my brush really quick, and I am going to be painting the eyelashes. So this horse has a very light pale eyelashes, just like the mane. So I'm going to be using white. You could use a little bit of the yellow too, but I'm going to start with white, and you can also use a little bit of black. But again, I'm starting with white. The eyelashes, they can come all the way over here and extend past the eye. You want to keep some of this dark area visible, because that's the way they look. You don't need to, but that's the way they look. So I'm going to start on the outside edge, and I'm coming down and flicking kind of to the side, because horse eyelashes, they're used to protect their eyes. So I think all eyelashes are, but so they definitely come down. And I don't use a lot of paint, but I am using the little tiny tip of my brush, and I'm going to make them shorter and shorter as they come towards this left-hand side. And I'm going to they're really, really tiny as I come towards here. And then maybe I'll make a couple of longer ones over here so you can have them overlapping. I'm going to put a tiny bit of white and yellow on my brush, and then that's cute. I don't think it needs much more than that. Sometimes less is more. Once you've got what you feel to be enough on there, sometimes you just need to stop. And if you did too much, you can always pick up a tiny bit of black paint and just reverse your action by putting a little bit of black in through there. And that will help to separate them if you need to. And then I'm going to put a little twinkle in the eye. So I'm going to use white paint. I'm going to have this kind of in the, not all the way to the edge here, but in the bottom part of my colored part. And I just like to make a couple of little sparkly dots. So I'm going to just kind of pop my brush a couple times to make a little sparkle. And that's all I'm going to do for the eye. So we're going to, let's see, what are we going to do? Oh, we're going on with our medium brush for the next step. So get ready. All right, so we are on to a freaking fun step. We're painting the mane. So I'm gonna be using my medium brush, and I'm using yellow and white paint. And how I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna kind of map it out first, because I know me, when I paint on this type of step, I get lost and I just keep having so much fun, and before I know it, I've got this big, massive, way too out of control thing. So I'm gonna kind of map it out first, and then I'll stay within my boundaries. So I'm gonna put yellow paint on my brush first, and I'm gonna kind of tell myself where I want this mane to go. So I know that it's clearly gonna start behind the ear, so I'm gonna kind of just start making myself, if you can ride it right along the neck, but I want mine to look fluffier, so I definitely want to have some fluffier pieces that are outside of the neck, and I want some coming down here. I want mine to kind of split along the big muscle in through here, so I'm going to kind of bring some in through here. I know I want it down here, and maybe somewhere here is where I'm gonna split it, like right about here. So that way, as I'm painting with my white, it'll tell me, don't put tons of, pieces of mane in through here. And this is gonna give it a really neat effect. And then, so that's gonna be my exterior, my right side, and then my left side of this big area. I'm gonna want to come a little bit in front of my ear, so I'm gonna have shorter pieces. So the shorter pieces are gonna be the new pieces. They'll be at the top, they'll be on the exterior, and then those under the longer pieces are gonna be the older pieces that have been there for a lot longer, so they're gonna be longer and underneath. So when you get to around the face and around the ears, those are going to be your shorter pieces. So again, I'm just kind of using the yellow right now to give myself a roadmap, and I'm going to bring this, I don't want to cover up all this area, but I want to have some of the mane coming in through here, and then I want some mane coming all the way down to the bottom of my canvas and overlapping some of the chest area. So I know that this is going to be, I've just given myself a whole roadmap for this right side of the horse. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the mane that comes out between the ears. So I've got it, it's going to have some little pieces up in through here, and then it's going to come maybe in front of this ear a little bit, and it's also going to come, I want it to kind of look like it's almost resting on the muzzle. I don't know if that's the right word, but on the front of the face. So I'm going to have it kind of maybe dipping down like this, maybe resting on that brow bone somewhere in through here, maybe, and then just kind of resting on the muzzle somewhere in through here. And then they can have super long manes. They can be, I think I saw when I was looking up these horses that, I mean, they're super long. They have to like cut them. Sometimes they can grow so long. So you can have a really long one over the face. So have fun with it. But don't get carried away as I normally would. So here I go. I'm just going to kind of give myself, again, some stopping points over on this left side. Otherwise, I would make it grow too big. And now that I've got that, now I've kind of got my roadmap where I want it to go. So now I'm going to start using yellow and white, and I'm going to use a lot of paint on my brush. I reload so often. I want to make sure I have some really long pieces, but when I get to the exterior pieces, I want to have some shorter ones, and I want to make sure they aren't all going in the same direction. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I see when people are painting manes or hair or anything of that sort, that the tendency is to get them to all go exactly in the same direction with the same exact bend, which isn't really gonna happen. You can look at my hair as an example, generally speaking, sure, it's going to go in a similar fashion or in a similar direction, but you're definitely going to have pieces of fur that are going to, or hair that's going to overlap in a different direction, or maybe you have that one little rogue piece that just kind of flails out all of a sudden. So have fun with it. Don't feel the need to make everything super perfect. You know, these are majestic creatures. They're wild. They thrash their head about. You know, it's all going to be different. At some point, I am going to start using just white, but right now I'm still just kind of picking up white and yellow in order to get almost like this kind of an undercoat to it. And as I'm by the face here, I do slow down a little bit because I want to have these more like little wispier pieces along the edges. And if you can curve it a little bit as if it's curving over the body here, that would be great. I'm going to go into the front area now. Let me just kind of poof this up a little bit in through here. Make sure I've got these little tiny pieces in through here. I've yet to meet one of these horses, but I do hear that they're just super sweet and they're easy to take care of, but they're fun. They're healthy horses, which is a great thing because a lot of horses come with health issues. So these are just a lovely horse to have as a pet. So if you're in the market for a horse, a Haflinger horse is the right one for you. As I do my commercial on Haflinger horses. But you know, they're all horses are beautiful, but these ones come with that special beauty quality with their gorgeous manes and that chestnut color, and they've got the personality to go along with it. So you can see I'm slowing down right now on the face because I don't want to overdo it. I have a tendency when I am doing this kind of fur and manes and stuff that I really like to just go wild and crazy and just keep flicking my brush here and there, but I want to control it. I want to make sure that I've got some good movement in it, and that it looks really nice and natural. When I get to these exterior pieces, I'm hardly touching the canvas because I want it to look like just little thin pieces of the mane are just kind of resting along that nose. And I'm just going to kind of put maybe a little bit more out in through here. And I'm going to start to just pick up white in a second here. And I'm going to do another pass on the main area of the mane. And I'll use just white. But when I go to use just white, I got to be careful that I don't overdo it. I really just am looking for this to be the highlighted areas of this gorgeous creature's mane. And again, I want to get these little fluffy pieces along the edges. So if you wanted to, you could also use your small brush to get a couple of these little wavy pieces just kind of represented out on the edges. Now I'm picking up a whole bunch of white and I'm going to get these really big pieces to come down. And if you come to a point where you're like, oh, I put too much, or I want to back off on something, you can always just dry the canvas and do another layer on top of the mane. Because sometimes when you're doing this really thick, just keep adding layers kind of deal, if it's not drying for you, you might end up blending it more than you want to. So just know that you can certainly just kind of dry it if you need to. I am coming into a thick area over here where I had a lot of yellow, but I'm okay with that. I'm just kind of getting it to make it look like it belongs together. And then I'm going to get these nice pieces along the edges. And you can see how at times I'm giving it almost like a gentle wiggle. I don't want it to look curly, but I definitely want it to have some kind of wave to it so it's not too straight. This is a nice and natural looking mane, so I want to kind of keep that up. Oh, I just got a little splash over here. Maybe I'll get a couple of little rogue pieces in through this split over here. Get some extra special or extra bright white over here. I'm almost there. I can feel it now. It's nice and got lots of texture to it. Maybe a little bit more in through here. I think I want this to kind of bump out up here, make it look like it's almost growing up and over here. And right now I'm not using much pressure, but I'm using a good amount of paint just to get this nice and thick. Maybe get a couple of little extra rogue pieces in through here. And then we do have one tiny little step left to do once you've got, oh, I want a couple more white pieces on this front bow. Hold on a second here. Maybe a couple of little pieces coming out in through here. This is where I find it tough to stop, because now I'm like, maybe if I do this or maybe if I do that. But I think that's looking pretty good. Just get it a little bit thicker in through here. And again, you can have as much, detail in this as you want to, or you can have it as subtle as you want to. Just make sure I've got a couple of nice brighter pieces coming down in through here. And then I'm going to be using my tiny brush for the next step. So once you've got your mane all nice and as beautiful as you want it to be, you can put this medium brush away in your water cup, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so we are on to the final step, which is the final step of any painting, which is to sign it. So I'm going to be using my small brush. I usually sign mine in the bottom left or the bottom right. I think I'm signing mine over here, and I usually sign it with black, but it's kind of dark over here. So I think I'm going to use maybe something that's complementary. So I'm going to use rust, yellow, and white. I'm going to sign mine with my initials, but you could certainly sign yours with your first name or the date or a symbol, or whatever you'd like to do is totally up to you. It's your identifying mark. And that is going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a pretty horse, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.